Good evening and welcome to the Pullman City Council meeting for this Tuesday, May 26th. And again, we're doing it from our different homes because of COVID-19. So right now, let's have Dee take roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Chapman.
Here.
Councilmember McCall. Councilmember McCall. Councilmember Parks.
Here.
Councilmember Records.
Here.
Councilmember Sorensen.
Here.
Councilmember Weller.
Present.
Councilmember Wright.
Here.
We're all here tonight. So under announcements tonight, first of all, I want to thank everyone who participated in the Pullman Community Poll to help guide businesses, nonprofits, institutions prepare for the reopening according to the governor's four-phase approach. Preliminary results, 67% or more respondents would feel comfortable visiting businesses, enacting several types of safety measures, including employees and customers wearing masks, limiting the number of customers, sitting charts, plexiglass, employee temperature checks, and posted practices. And we got to thank Dan Records for putting this survey together. He's done an excellent job. And Dan, we'll just turn it over to you right now.
Thank you, Glenn. Yeah, so far, the poll closed yesterday afternoon. I know that some people were still able to take the poll today, so we'll take a look at those results as well. But all in all, we've had about 2,400 completed responses. There was about 3,000 people that started the survey, but 2,400 completed it. So I'm really impressed with the community involvement and wanting to have their voice heard there. About 75% of the responses look like they were coming from people who are full-time residents of Pullman, and the other 25% were either part-time residents or coming to Pullman to work, to shop, to recreate, or as students. So like you said, some of the early results are kind of telling for how I think businesses can respond to assure and improve customer confidence in entering their businesses. And I've been working with Jen Hackman, Economic Development Manager, and we hope to be able to provide some more in-depth analysis and some really good feedback to the community, to the different business partners that we had that were helping out with this, including the Chamber of Commerce, Avista Corporation, WSU, and we're really hoping that we can use some of the results here to help people drive decision-making on how they're going to communicate about what they're doing to ensure their customer safety as we move forward. And I think, one of the things that I've seen in the survey results, and it's been kind of mirrored across social media and the news, we have about 70% of people saying that they'd like to see businesses either require or recommend masks be worn in the business when people are in close contact with each other, when social distancing is not available. And that goes along with the governor's recommendations, that goes along with all the public health experts' recommendations. But there is still a minority of people, including here in Pullman, that think that masks are not something that they personally want to be wearing. But to those people, I'd say, even if it's not something you think you need to do, if you think about it in the way of one of the best ways that we can get businesses to reopen and reopen successfully is to have improved customer confidence across the board. So if people wearing masks makes other people feel more comfortable going to that business, that's going to help that business owner to be able to keep their business going and to survive this economic fallout from this too. So that's just something I'd like people to consider is even if it's not something that you feel you need to do, think about how that's going to impact other people's confidence in going out and resuming activities.
Well, Dan, again, on behalf of the city, thank you so much for doing this survey. It was a very complete survey. I know that a lot of us on the council also filled it out. You did a really great job on that. And again, thanks. And we'll look forward to more results coming out there.
Sure.
So thank you. You can get care when you need it. All services at Pullman Regional Hospital are now available, according to their latest report. Gary Jenkins has been involved with some fraud cases here in the city of Pullman. So I want Gary to give us an update on some of those cases that are coming up right now.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. A couple of weeks ago, our Human Resources Manager, Karen Sires, began to receive unemployment benefit requests for current and prior city employees that were not submitted by those persons. So to date, we've received over 70 victims of fraud through the unemployment benefit system in the state of Washington, where their name, birth date, and social security number have been compromised and used in the applications. Most of the victims are either Pullman City employees, Pullman School District, Schweitzer Engineering, and Washington State University employees. So the FBI and Secret Service have agreed to take over the investigative lead on those cases. And so at this point, we're collecting victim information and then passing it on to the FBI for them to take the lead on those cases.
Any questions of the council on that? Yes, Dan?
Gary, do you have any recommendations for people to how they can find out if they've had claims made against them?
I do. The best thing to do is for people to go on to esd.wa.gov and apply for an account through the unemployment office. And you don't need to submit an application for unemployment. You can just create an account. In fact, I did that today and found out I was a victim myself. I attempted to set up an account and it told me that my social security number was registered with someone else's email address. So I was able to fill out the online form to notify them that there was fraudulent activity on my account, and they immediately put a stop to that particular claim. And now it's going to be part of the criminal investigation. So if someone has not yet created an account there, I would definitely recommend doing that.
And Gary, we can see that on our city webpage. You'll have that location where they can go to so they can see it there, or on the police department page.
Yeah, we'll post it on our alerts and updates page later this evening.
Okay, Ann?
Thank you. Chief, I know of someone personally who is out in the county who has encountered this, and this person has gone and filed the form on esd.wa.gov, but should they also report it to you or to the sheriff, or no?
So they should report it to the sheriff's department if they live in the county area, and they're doing the same thing we are. They're collecting the victim information and forwarding it to the FBI.
Thank you.
So obviously they're pretty foolish if they go after the police chief and put you in the fraud case. I was just thinking, so. Any other questions of council on that? Eileen?
Yeah, Gary, does this look like this is an organized effort by a small group of individuals, or just people shooting in the dark hoping to snag somebody's benefits?
You know, it's really hard to tell. I saw a bulletin come out today from the FBI that they, in some cases, they have traced it to a bank account in Illinois in some cases. But from their bulletin, it sounds like they feel it's more than one group that's involved in it. There was an Equifax breach, I believe, earlier this year, and that's likely where a lot of this information was obtained.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, Gary, for that update. The City of Pullman Planning Department is conducting a signage inventory of the area business signs. The department is not taking enforcement action of any kind on those signs being inventoried. They're strictly building a database. So if you see the department workers inspecting your signage, please know that it's just recording purposes only. They're not taking any enforcement action. 4th of July is going to happen here in Pullman. It's going to be a little bit different. We're not going to be at the main park where we're usually always at. We're going to do it from an undisclosed location, but it's just going to be fireworks this year. And if you go to pullmanchamber.com and you check on 4th of July celebration, there's a way that you can donate to that cause as well. We don't want to leave any member of our community out during the pandemic, especially the young ones. with the help of Neal Public Library Director Joanna Bailey and our IT department, Neal Library Youth Librarian, Miss Rachel. And I have recorded a series of story times that can be accessed to the city website at pullman-wa.gov under Neal Public Library. So those are the announcements tonight. With that, we go to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to read the consent by title only?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Second?
Yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? With that, Laura McAloon.
Thank you, Mayor. Your consent agenda consists of a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes of the regular meeting of May 12, 2020, and approve them as submitted. A motion to approve disbursements for checks numbered 99938 through 100004, totaling $821,983.64. A motion to approve disbursements for payroll numbered 600 to 603, 605 to 607, 100006 to 100024, and 61433 to 61712, totaling $1,235,635.46. And a motion to approve disbursements for accounts payable checks numbered 100005 and 100025 to 100083, totaling $560,215.41.
Is there any measure the council would like up for discussion of those? Seeing none, do I hear a motion to approve items 1 through 4?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
From Patricia. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, we now go to the regular agenda tonight. First item is a resolution authorizing the purchase of an audiovisual system from Avedex Industries, LLC, from the State of Washington Purchasing Cooperative Master Contract. This is for the new City Hall. And Adam Lincoln, you'll start it off. And I think we have Mike Urban as well.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is an item for the allowance of purchasing AV equipment for the new City Council chambers at the new City Hall that is underway currently. So this was an item that was approved originally in 2017 as part of a CIP, and then on December 17th of last year, the budget had been amended and the dollars were rolled forward, excuse me, for 2020. At this point in construction, this is where they're at the point where they can actually start installing this equipment. So this is why we're bringing it forward to you at this time for your approval. Doing it in the method that we're doing it, where we're having it done by our own staff, saves on labor costs and equipment costs, because if we use the contractor who's doing City Hall right now, there's a markup of somewhere between 5 and 10% for the cost of having them procure the equipment and do the project for us. The current equipment, as some of you may know, is a lot of it's over 20 years old. We have to wait 2 to 3 hours for some of the sound equipment to actually physically warm up before we hold meetings in the current chambers. Some of it's just kind of held together by duct tape and wishing. To hold meetings currently, we're actually borrowing some equipment from staff's personal collection, and we're borrowing some equipment from Washington State University as well. And we certainly appreciate that help to make sure we can broadcast as we currently are. The funds that we have come from the 507 Internal Service Fund, which is for IT equipment. And just a side note, to hold meetings the way we're currently doing it, it takes about 3 IT staff to help us out. And when we hold meetings in City Council chambers, it actually just takes 1 staff member to help support that. I'd say for similarity, if you're looking for sort of peace of mind, I would say this is really similar to the rodder that you approved previously, something that was in the previous budget that came from a separate fund. And in this case, instead of Public Works being able to do their jobs better, this really helps for bringing your messaging to the public in a more transparent fashion. So recommendation from staff is to approve this expenditure at this time. And I'm happy to answer questions, or if Mike has anything to add, happy to have his support as well.
Mike?
No, Adam, you covered it real well, and Wayne Brannick is also on if there's any technical questions.
Okay, Dan Records.
I just wanted to say I noticed the RF transmitter system that was included in there, and the way that it was described, it looks like this particular contractor that we're looking at really kind of knows what they're talking about in terms of what is required for municipal governments and ADA systems. So I'd just like to call that out. It's an accessibility feature that I don't know how often we've had requests for that in the past, but it is something that is really beneficial to folks who are hard of hearing and attending in person.
Others, Al Sorensen.
Adam and Mike, I got a little question here. So this equipment, when we put out the bid for the remodel of City Hall, was this already included in that? Was this money part of the bond?
No, it wasn't part of the bond, because what we wanted to do is make sure that IT got the equipment they wanted in and there wouldn't be substitutions or shortcuts. So this is something we part out to make sure that we had the equipment we wanted and we can future proof it in the ways we wanted. So yeah, short answer there.
So was there any audio visual equipment included in the bond for the remodel of City Hall for Chambers?
No, there was not.
There wasn't.
Why not?
Because this was carryover of the 2017 CIP before the bond passed. And then once the bond passed, staff took a look back and said, well, do we really want to replace the equipment in the old council chambers, or should we apply these dollars to new equipment in new council chambers? And so this has been put on pause, replacing the equipment on the old chambers. And that's not what we're doing here. We're worried that won't survive a transport. Plus it's past its useful life. And so this is just money that has been saved in the IT fund over time and has been waiting for this opportunity right in the middle of the construction when the walls are open and ready to be wired.
So this money was obligated to redo our current chambers, and then we put it on hold.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Nathan, I saw your hand up.
I think Councilman Sorensen really delved into it well. You know, I've had a number of different people ask me, where is this money coming from, and our you know, financial obligation. So no, I appreciate Councilman Sorensen's questions. It sounds like just one question. Is this out of the general fund?
No, this is out of the 507 internal fund.
Okay.
Internal services fund, not the 001 general fund.
All right.
Okay. Ann Parks.
Thank you. I would just like to reiterate that this amount has already been budgeted for this expense. The City Hall chambers are waiting for this installment before it's finished. If we put this off, then it's really pointless to finish City Hall and put in the walls and everything, because we need to install the infrastructure while the structure is ready to do it. If we put this off, we're going to incur extra expense in the way of a more expensive IT package, as well as labor to install in a potentially finished space. I understand the concern about other expenses that are being cut in the city, but I feel confident about recommending this because this money has already been budgeted and approved. This is not something that's coming to us new, and we're not looking for an additional source for this money. It is already there. So my inclination is to approve it. Thank you.
Okay. Others.
Could I ask a clarification? If it's been budgeted and approved, what's our role tonight? It feels to me like we haven't approved it, which is what we're doing. And it's, for me, I don't see any reason why we can't do some of the infrastructure, including conduit, right now. because I do think this is important. I don't know that it's urgent. And maybe this is a terrible parallel, but I know when my brother bought his house, he wanted to put in an AV system in the basement and didn't have the money to do it. Put in all the wiring, and it sat for a couple of years, and then he went in a couple of years, and he got the speakers he wanted, the sound system he wanted. He prepped for it, closed up the walls, and was able to do it, when money was flowing a little easier. So that's just what's on my mind, and what I'm hearing from the consternation that a lot of our residents have with what we're told could be our deficit versus what this would cost.
So Ann, you had your hand up?
If I could just answer that, I believe tonight we are approving the contract and the vendor, not the allocation particularly of the money, but Mike can correct me on that. Also, I want to point out that if we don't have the equipment in the new city hall, or if the current equipment moves and has failed, then we are failing in our due diligence to provide transparency and openness to our citizens and to our residents for meetings and accessibility. So that is a concern for me as well.
And this is off a state contract as well. Is that right, Adam? So that we're working off of their lowest estimate.
Yes, Mayor, that's correct.
Okay. Eileen, I saw your hand up.
Well, yeah, just the fact that it's been budgeted doesn't necessarily mean we have to spend it. I mean, it's not like it's been spent and we're waiting for the equipment to arrive and then be installed. We can future-proof the room, as we've talked about. I realize that we do have to have these, some sort of equipment in place when we do resume meetings. But I mean, we're doing meetings pretty well, it seems like, now that we've got some of the bugs worked out, just as we are now on RingCentral or Zoom. And can't we use some capacity of that type as we move into the new city hall and maybe put this off for a few minutes, or a few months? Because who knows where we're going to be in 6 months budget-wise, or even a year budget-wise. This is an awful lot of money to ask the public to swallow at this point in time, because I know there's a lot that we can do before we buy all the equipment.
Anybody want to address that? Mike?
Yeah, we can absolutely go back. We probably won't go back to Avidex because I don't think they're going to want to come up and just run the conduit. I think they want to provide the whole package, but we can certainly go back to Quality Construction, see what they would do for a change work order for adding conduit, so we can add wires later if we knew the spaces where these things would go. And I think there's a certain amount of help we would need from Avidex on that. It's going to obviously raise the price because that was not expenses we were planning to do right now. Plus there's the 5% hitter for having them manage it instead of us managing Avidex that comes in. So that it can absolutely be done, but there are additional costs for doing it that way.
I recognize that things have been budgeted, and I fully understand that. I also recognize that none of us knew what the revenue was going to do. We weren't planning on coronavirus, and so that's changed drastically. So even certain things that have been budgeted, I think we need to be even overly judicious, and maybe for the time being we find some more budget-friendly options just to hold us over, right? So if it's not the old equipment, maybe it's something, but it's not to the price tag of $141,000. Maybe it's something that can get us by for a while.
Would anybody be open to at least do the wiring at this point? Considering it's under construction, it'd be easier to wire.
Yes.
Okay. Eileen, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, that was my next question, Glenn. Can we get a look at what this would cost to do the wiring, run the conduit, and that change order that you just referred to with the 5%? Can we get a look at what kind of numbers? Can you run those numbers for us and get an estimate? And then maybe come back in front of council with that, and maybe we can weigh out this equation.
I see Dan Records had a hand up.
I saw Laura's hand up too, and I think maybe she might go where I'm going.
Okay.
Probably council member, the contract before you actually excludes any conduit. There was, it looks like there's a conduit that's present in the building already. And then additional wiring would be done. Wayne can correct me, or maybe Clayton. It looks like it would be done by city staff, or we'd have to add it to the general contractor's contract. But this doesn't include the conduit. It includes simply installing the products to broadcast your meetings. So if this contract doesn't go forward, then there will be no broadcast capability through the chambers.
Okay. Wayne, did you want to add to that?
I was just going to reiterate what Laura said. I believe there may be conduit in the new city hall from the electricians, but I'm not exactly sure. We've talked about locations with Avidex and electricians.
Okay. And Pat Wright, I saw your hand up.
So I have a couple of questions. One is, if we ever resume being back to in-person meetings, is that in phase 4? Or do we know what time frame we might be looking at for the resumption of regular meetings?
So, Councilwoman, the phase 3 has gatherings of less than 50 people. So presumably your city council meetings generally don't average more than 50 people. Large gatherings, large meetings of over 50 people would be in phase 4.
Okay.
So anything in excess of 5 people to 50 is phase 3.
Okay. So it's possible that we could be reconvening in regular sessions by the time that we move into the new city hall, which, are we still scheduled for that in like an October, November timeframe?
The current schedule is set to be done with construction at the end of August, I believe.
August, yeah.
Okay. So that means that if we don't accept this bid right now, as Laura said, we don't have the capability to broadcast. And I firmly believe that, you've got to do it right the first time. I don't think we need to be playing with how this all comes together. And I think it's critical that, as has been stated, that we have the transparency and the accessibility to our community. So I would concur with everything that fellow council member Ann Parks has said as well.
Ann, I saw your hand up earlier.
Thank you, Mayor. Mike, can you answer a question? I know that I've been asked this a few times. If we don't use this money for this project, can it be reassigned to personnel or some other function? I think that's important to clarify as well.
Well, right now, these IT dollars are in the IT fund. So if we're not going to fund projects with them, we can certainly fund IT staff. And if we deem that IT has excess of funds, which I looked at the budget and it doesn't look like they do with some of the projects that they have to roll out, then that would be the mechanism for pushing it back. But we're looking at future-proofing a lot of buildings right now, and the regular purchases that go along with that. So as far as reallocating it backwards, that's something we can certainly look at budgetarily. But right now, again, the reason this is in front of you is because this is where we are in the construction, and it was something that council in the past, before COVID happened, wanted to commit to upgrading the delivery to the people. And if we need to go back and look at a couple different options to come back under the circumstances, that's not out of the realm either. It's just a timing issue.
Thank you. And my point is that I wasn't aware that I didn't think it could just be moved to wages for personnel. I thought that it's really meant for, like you said, future proofing spaces for technology. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Any other comment? Okay, Eileen?
Yeah, if we budgeted this money for the previous, or for our current city hall, or previous, however we're referring to it, and we're just sort of band-aiding this onto the new city hall, I didn't realize that's how we had it set up, and I'm not terribly comfortable with that. Why are we looking at a whole new, or have we looked at a whole new process for the AV system that we need for the new city hall? It's a new building, like Wayne says, there's conduit that's already in there. I don't know, it just seems like a really awkward awkward way of going about it.
Okay.
If I can
Adam,
answer that.
This is all a new system. Okay, Adam?
Yeah, the entire system has been looked at just for the new city hall. The budget amount was put together, and obviously it's actually a little bit more now for the new city hall, given the time change between 2017 and now. But we looked at what equipment we would want in the new city hall. We didn't look at what we wanted in the old city hall. Does that help answer your question, council member?
Somewhat, yes.
And again, the council's goal is to be transparent, and this would at least give us that kind of transparency in the new city hall. I saw Al Sorensen.
Just off subject, just a hair here. Do we have any other things that are going to come up with the new city hall that we're going to need to approve money for that we didn't include in the bond? Is there going to be another 100,000 here and another 100,000 there, or is this like the only item?
I think landscaping might be an issue. I don't think there's enough to cover the landscaping for the entire, but outside of that, I'd really have to dig and look.
I think Mike's right.
Nothing comes to mind right now.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Do I hear a motion on this resolution?
Move to adopt.
Second.
I've had and Dee, you got that? Who made the motion? Who made the second? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We'll need to I think we'll need to check that. We've got Dan, Pat, and Ann. Was there anyone else that was an aye? And Nathan? So we have four there. Okay. All those opposed signify.
No.
Nay.
We've got 3 nays. So we have a 4-3 vote. It's been approved. With that, we now go to the second item on the agenda tonight. It's a resolution authorizing the execution of amendment for the wireless communication facility permit agreement between the city and Selco Partnership. Clayton Forsman, it's yours.
All right, thank you. And good evening, Mayor and City Council. Selco Partnership, doing business as Verizon Wireless, would like to add a microwave dish antenna to their existing wireless facility at the city's high school water tank. That tank is located on North Street, which is north of the Aquatic Center and east of the high school. The additional antenna would be installed within the existing fenced leased area, and it would be used to enhance service. In order to move forward with the installation of the microwave dish antenna, the existing wireless communications facility permit agreement must be amended to allow the additional antenna. And amendment number 3 has been prepared and executed by Verizon, and it is included in your council packet. Staff recommends adoption of the resolution to authorize amendment number 3, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Questions on this? No questions? Then do I hear a motion on this resolution?
Move to adopt.
Second.
I had Ann Parks as a second. Is that what you have, Dee? Or, okay. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. With that, we go to new business, and I know Brandon Chapman has an item that he'd like to bring up tonight. So, Brandon?
Let me just make sure that I'm unmuted. Yeah, I had emailed the mayor and Adam and Kevin Gardis just to ask for an update on something. You would have seen, my fellow council members, the email that we received from Chip Hunter, the College of Business dean, suggesting Main Street also be used for some parklets, or some of the street for business, to be able to change the scope of what potentially is the capacity issue that some restaurants have. So, you know, in essence, be able to move to some outdoor seating, meaning that there's space and safety for people, all those things that the folks might have brought up in the survey that Councilman Records had, you know, had helped initiate. Anyway, so I know that this is something that's been discussed, and my understanding was that Kevin was going to come to us in the near future, but I asked for an update just in case some of you didn't know that, and what it was that they were looking at. And without Kevin here, Adam graciously agreed to give a very, I guess, superficial overview of what we can expect, just so we can start thinking about it. And you know, the time might be right for this. So that's really what was behind this. And my understanding again is we'll have a more thorough presentation, but maybe Adam can touch upon this.
Yeah, thank you. Clayton and Kevin have been working with WashDOT to start the conversation with them and talk about what would be required, because it is a state highway. So you're essentially using their space to provide seating or some sort of service for a restaurant or another private sector facility. They're working on creating a demonstration project, and they'll be able to give you a little more detail at the meeting on the 9th to kind of talk through what would be involved with that. But again, they've started the conversation with WashDOT and making sure that they understand what would be required. I think one of the big concerns is certainly safety, to make sure that if you have people seated on the street, essentially, that you have the proper barriers in place and traffic mitigation handled in a way that's safe for anybody who would be seated out there. So I think it's a really great idea to pursue, and we're working on it, and we'll just bring you more detail as we get that.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's really all I wanted to bring forward. I'm sure a lot of you have seen that they're doing this in other places, including Spokane, having recently approved some form of this. So it's something that I'm looking forward to Kevin bringing back to council. So I thank he and Clayton for that. So thank you, Adam.
Okay,
you're welcome.
Any other new business? If not, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moving second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, we'll see you back on June 9th.
Good night, everybody. Stay safe.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.